I have a question here. And the guy asked, after setting up a date, some women keep texting about things we can talk about on the date. Should one just roll with this and hope it doesn't alter in any way the date that was set up? Any advice? Yes. So the first thing I advise is really try to do as much as possible. Try to do the best that you can at setting up a date between the time that you set up the date and when the date's happening. Try to make that as short of a time as possible. So I don't typically recommend doing same day dates. Like I have, in fact, asked women, hey, like in the morning time, I'll talk to them online like, hey, so if you're not busy tonight, we should meet up. But across the board, you should typically try to say, hey, let's meet up like tomorrow. That way, at that point, there's not a need to have too much excessive conversation between the time you set the date and when the date's happening. So the closer you can close that gap between that, then it's going to be easier. But I know sometimes, like say, you might ask a girl on Tuesday, hey, let's go out Wednesday, thinking that she's free Wednesday. And then she says, oh, I'm not available till like Friday or Saturday. At that point, you're like, what do you do? Because to your point, you don't want to like be thinking about things to talk about on the date and then use up all those talking points before you actually get to the date by texting all the time. So this is where, as a guy, you have to learn to really take control of a conversation, because when women, especially once you set a date with the woman, she's already getting hella excited and she may inadvertently start to feel in the moment more things for you, because now she's anticipating. She's feeling like there could potentially be something here and she's looking forward to what this date could possibly mean. And that could cause her to now overtext you, even if it's like a few days out. So you're setting up a date on Tuesday for Wednesday. She says she's not free till say Friday, right? So that's 3 days you got to wait, right? And most guys will fall into the trap of like, oh my God, now I got to like text her all the time or answer her nonstop or whatever. You got to do that. So here's what you can do, right? First thing is, if she's asking you certain questions that required more of a detailed answer, you can just say, you know what? Oh man, I have so much to say about that, but you know what? I really want to save it for the date. Like you can do that. You can respectfully say to her, hey, I really want to talk more about that, but it's better if that story is told in person, because this is the way you can start early on establishing boundaries in terms of like, the amount of texting you're going to do, but also like you're saying, I'm going to be in control of this conversation and when it happens. So obviously as a guy, you got to learn. You're going to do better bonding with women in person than you're going to do on the phone. So you don't have to say that to her, but you can say for the bigger stuff like, oh, tell me. She's like, oh, so before the date, tell me more about your family, this and that. Oh man, I got a crazy brother. He's been through a lot, but I can't go into details on the phone because you'd be reading paragraphs for days. But suffice to say, when we get on the date, oh my God. And also to the point, as you're answering these questions like that, what you're doing is you're building up for her, not only anticipation, but now like there's an unknown mystery about why is it that you have to wait to tell these stories? Why is it that she's asking you a question that in her head should have a simple answer, but you're hyping it up like, oh no, I got to go full detail. All that's doing is hyping her up, to see you, but also to hear your stories. And the more you can hype up a woman and make her anticipate what she's going to get with you when she meets you, all the better. All right. So that's one way you can go about it. The other way that I've done in the past is I'll start a rousing game of 20 questions. Like I'll say, hey, before we get to the date, why don't we play a game of 20 questions? Well, basically, you know how 20 questions goes. I ask you a question, you answer it, and then you ask me the question back. I respond, and then you ask the next question, so forth and so on. Now you can play this game at a snail's pace, because this game can go beyond like leading up to the date. Because realistically, if you try to ask her like 20 questions in 3 days, that's a lot of texting. But you can say, let's start the game now. If we're still playing it before the date, then we'll just finish the rest of the questions on the date. But from there, she'll say, okay, great, let's play, blah, blah, blah. And then you can ask her like the first question, like, so tell me about what's your favorite type of ice cream, right? And then she'll answer back with some answer. And then you can choose to answer right away, or you can, switch up on the time frame that it takes you to answer. You can go from like answering after 5 minutes to answering after like 2 or 3 hours. And in between the answer, just say, if it's a long wait, you can just say like, oh, I had to work, or I got called off for something else, so I had to go do that, or oh, my mom came over, so I couldn't answer right away. But the point is that, again, the important thing is you stay in control of how this conversation goes. You still don't want to overtext. Ideally, you're only answering when she's initiating. So you're not, once you set the date, if you can press it, you're not trying to initiate text. That's the thing, is that I know a lot of times for guys, I'll say like, you need to wait between 4 days to text or whatever, but I always mean initiate. So at the point that you get the date, you should not be initiating any text. You should get all the confirmations of the date on that first text. And then from there, you wait until she initiates something else to respond back to her. And you can end with like, oh yeah, whatever. I look forward to seeing you on this date, Now, the last thing I'll say is this, is that sometimes guys get really panicky when they think about the idea of having to wait. Like, so many guys confront me on, but Harry, like, I can't just not talk to a girl for 2 or 3 days because what'll she think? And my answer is this: you set the date. So at that point, the only thing that matters is her attraction level for you high enough to where she's going to continue to show up for the date. All right. And so you having to text her constantly after setting a date is not a thing, because women that have high interest and are anticipating seeing you are going to just hope and pray that you show up for the date. They're not going to be concerned about, oh, he didn't text me, so now he must be losing interest. Oh my God. And if she is, her high interest will supersede that and make her contact you and say, hey, just to make sure our date is still on her. Hey, I'm on my way to the date. Hope to see you soon. Like, in either case, she will be the one to initiate and reach out to you about whether or not the date is happening. So you don't lose if you have a highly attractive woman that you set a date with and you decide not to text her in between dates. And I'm actually going to get to a question that I got earlier this week that a woman responded to that specifically. But the point is that, yeah, women that have high interest and are anticipating seeing you aren't going to care if they got to wait 2 days, 4 days, 2 weeks, or 2 years to hear from you, as long as the end result is they get the date. I'm telling you this from personal experience. So hopefully, guy, this helps you out.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man.